No genre in music has the same connection to the occult, devil worship, and anti-Christian themes quite like heavy metal does. From church burning, Norwegian black metal, to death metal bands that got the FBI knocking on their door, we're counting down the 13 most satanic metal bands of all time. Now, quick disclaimer, this video is for educational and entertainment purposes, so exploring the history and cultural impact of these bands. So I'm not endorsing any particular beliefs with this video, I'm just examining how these artists used extreme imagery and themes to push boundaries and shock the world. Kicking off with a favourite for a lot of people is Carpathian Forest at number 13. This, of course, is a band that was formed in the early 90s during Norway's infamous black metal explosion. Carpathian Forest carved out a unique niche by blending traditional black metal with punk and thrash elements, creating what's often called black and roll. But although the musical style changed, the message never did. Their vocalist, Nattefrost, who we'll talk about more later, is known for being one of the most extreme figures in the scene. With track titles that explicitly glorify Satan and mock Christianity, Carpathian Forest never backed down from their anti-Christian stance. Albums like their debut showcase this perfectly, delivering raw, uncompromising black metal that sounds like it was recorded in an actual forest at midnight during a ritual. They're unapologetically evil, and that's exactly how they want it. Coming in at number 12, and moving on to something slightly different with The Devil's Blood. Now, The Devil's Blood was a Dutch occult rock band that existed from 2006 to 2013, and their name alone tells you everything you need to know about their philosophy. Unlike the raw brutality of black metal, The Devil's Blood mixed heavy metal with psychedelic and progressive rock, creating this often hypnotic, ritualistic sound that felt more like a seance than a concert. If you want to think of Black Sabbath meets occult ceremony, that gives you some sort of idea of what to expect with them. Now, the band was led by Selim Lamochi, who was completely open about his devotion. In fact, in multiple interviews, he stated that Satan was the driving force behind all of the creative output and all of their creative power, not as a metaphor or shock tactic, but as a genuine spiritual inspiration. What makes The Devil's Blood so fascinating is they weren't trying to be the most extreme or shocking. They approached Satanism almost reverently, creating this atmospheric, mystical experience. Adding Selim's sister to handle vocals only intensified the ritualistic vibe. Tragically though, the band ended after Selim's death in 2013, but their legacy as one of the most genuine occult rock bands still remains. Coming in at number 11 is Swedish melodic black metal pioneers Dissection, who took Satanism deadly seriously. And I mean that literally. Formed in 1989, Dissection helped create the melodic black metal genre with their debut album, combining the aggression of black metal with epic, almost orchestral guitar melodies. Early on, their themes focused on darkness and the occult, but things got way more serious. Frontman John, I'm going to butcher this, Nattefrost, and guitarist Johan Norman didn't just sing about Satan. They joined an organisation called the Misanthropic Luciferian Order, now known as the Temple of the Black Light. Now, this isn't some fan club, this is a legitimate occult organisation with deeply held beliefs. The band broke up in the late 90s after Nattefrost was imprisoned for his involvement in a murder case. When he reformed Dissection in 2004, he made it clear he'd only work with members who genuinely believed in and could uphold Dissection's satanic philosophy. Tragically, in 2006, shortly after releasing what he considered his magnum opus, he took his own life. He left behind a note stating that he was moving on to the next level of existence. So whether you believe in their philosophy or not, you can't question their commitment. Now, remember Carpathian Forest's vocalist, who I mentioned earlier? Well, his solo project is number 10 on this list. It's called Nattefrost, and it cranks everything up to 11. If Carpathian Forest were dark, Nattefrost's solo work is pitch black. This is raw, necro-obsessed black metal that sounds like it was recorded in a crypt using equipment from the 80s. It's deliberately lo-fi, deliberately harsh, and deliberately offensive. Nattefrost revives the sound of old-school legends like Hellhammer and Darkthrone and Mayhem, bands that we'll cover later on in this episode, but adds his own twisted vision. Albums feature track titles so extreme I literally can't even say them on this channel without risking being demonetized. The music matches the imagery. There's chainsaw guitars, there's blasting drums, there's shrieked vocals calling for dark entities and celebrating evil in its purest form. This isn't metaphorical, this isn't theatrical, this is Nattefrost genuinely trying to create the soundtrack to hell itself. It's the type of music that makes parents think their kids are joining a cult, which, given some black metal history, isn't exactly paranoid. Alright, it's time to talk about American death metal royalty with number 9's pick, which is Morbid Angel, who emerged from Florida's death metal scene in the late 80s and immediately set a new standard for technical brutality. Their 1989 debut album is considered one of the most influential extreme metal albums ever recorded, but it's not just the technicality that makes them legendary, it's their commitment to occult themes. Morbid Angel's lyrics draw heavily from Sumerian mythology, ancient deities, and genuine occult practices. They're not just singing about generic devil worship, they're invoking ancient gods that predate Christianity by thousands of years. We're talking Tiamat, Absu, and other entities from the Mesopotamian religion. But here's what's wild. Their most explicitly satanic album was released on a major record label, a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. A death metal band got major label backing while singing about overthrowing God and embracing ancient evil. That's just how good they were. The band's commitment to the occult isn't just lyrical. Members have even been open about their genuine interest in alternative spirituality and left-hand path philosophies. So, Morbid Angel proved you could be extremely technical, extremely successful, and completely devoted to dark themes. Now, here's an entry that might surprise you. Coming in at number 8 is the Electric Hellfire Club, a bizarre industrial metal band from Wisconsin that existed in the 90s. Now, the Electric Hellfire Club mixed electronic music, industrial sounds, and metal with lyrics celebrating everything taboo. So those themes were serial killers, mass murder, devil worship, drugs, and extreme sexuality. Imagine if Ministry and Nine Inch Nails made a baby and raised it in a satanic commune, and that's the sound you get. But here's what makes them legitimately satanic rather than just provocative. The band's leader, Thomas Thorne, is an actual ordained priest in the Church of Satan. Not a metaphorical one, an official priest in Anton LaVey's organization. When Anton LaVey, the founder of Church of Satan, died in 1997, Thorne gave his eulogy. That's not just posturing, everyone. That's genuine commitment to the philosophy of Satanism. The Electric Hellfire Club never really achieved mainstream success. They remained obscure even within underground metal, but their dedication to actual satanic philosophy, not just imagery, earns them a spot on this list. They weren't just using Satan to sell records. They genuinely believed in him. Alright, coming in at number 7 is Norwegian black metal legend Satyricon, who have been delivering sinister soundscapes since the early 90s, and they're masters of making darkness accessible. Unlike some black metal bands that prioritize being as raw and unlistenable as possible, Satyricon crafted black metal that maintained its evil atmosphere while being musically sophisticated. They're obsessed with medieval history, ancient paganism, and the nature of evil itself. The secret weapon was drummer Frost, a absolute legend in black metal circles known for his inhuman speed and precision. The man plays like he's possessed, which fits the band's style and aesthetic perfectly. Satyricon takes inspiration from Mother Earth and ancient Norse paganism, but filtered through a dark, occultic lens. Their music explores the intersection of nature worship, pre-Christian beliefs, and the forces of darkness that Christianity tried to suppress. But what makes them effective is the sophistication. This isn't just blasting and shrieking. Satyricon crafts actual songs which are dark, medieval, atmospheric, and which transport you to another time when paganism ruled and Christianity was the foreign invader. Albums from the late 90s and early 2000s are considered genre-defining masterpieces that prove black metal could be both evil and musical simultaneously. Coming in at number 6 is Swedish black metal battalion Marduk, named after an ancient Babylonian god, formed in 1990 and immediately embraced the most controversial themes imaginable. Their music combines religious Satanism, anti-Christianity, and disturbing historical themes, particularly focusing on World War II atrocities. One of their earlier demo covers showed a nun using a crucifix in a, let's just say, extremely blasphemous way that I absolutely cannot describe in detail on this channel. Track titles are deliberately offensive, explicitly mocking Christianity in the most direct way possible, but it's the World War II fascination that's gotten them the most controversy. Some have accused Marduk of Nazi sympathies, though band members insist they're using history for artistic purposes only, not promoting any political ideology. Regardless of their intent, Marduk's music is uncompromisingly dark and fast. They pioneered what's called war metal, this relentless machine gun-paced black metal that sounds like an actual battlefield. The drumming itself is ridiculous, blast beats at inhuman speeds creating this wall of percussion that's physically overwhelming. Marduk represents black metal at its most extreme, with historically controversial, religiously blasphemous, and musically brutal themes at its core. They've been banned from venues, protested by religious groups, and remain one of the most notorious names in extreme metal. From Poland comes number 5 on this list, which is Behemoth, who might be the most successfully openly satanic band in metal today. Led by the charismatic Nurgle, Behemoth started as traditional black metal back in 1991, but evolved into something more sophisticated, merging black metal's mysticism with death metal's brutality, all wrapped in genuinely researched occult philosophy. Nurgle doesn't just use satanic imagery for shock value. He's studied Thelema, the writings of Aleister Crowley, and various left-hand path philosophies. When Behemoth sings about Lucifer, they're exploring complex theological and philosophical concepts, not just being edgy. But here's what's remarkable about Behemoth. They almost didn't make it. Back in 2010, Nurgle was diagnosed with leukemia and given slim chances of survival. The metal community rallied around him, and after a successful bone marrow transplant and long recovery, Behemoth returned stronger than ever. Their modern albums are massive productions, they're orchestral, cinematic, and technically brilliant, but still maintaining that core of anti-Christian, pro-Luciferian philosophy. They headline major festivals, tour the world, and bring satanic themes to massive audiences. Behemoth proves you can be extremely successful, musically sophisticated, and genuinely committed to satanic philosophy all at once. They're not just a metal band, they're not even just a black metal band, they're cultural provocateurs. Now, number 4's pick might just be the most mysterious band on this list. It is Brujeria, which I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing wrong, but it translates into witchcraft in Spanish, and it has been shrouded in rumours and speculations ever since their formation. Are they actually Mexican satanic drug cartel members? Are they established musicians from other bands wearing masks? Well, the answer is more probably the second one, but the mystery is all part of the appeal. What we know for sure is that they create grinding, brutal death metal with all lyrics in Spanish telling tales of drug cartels, satanic rituals, and extreme violence. Track titles translate into things that I absolutely cannot say in this episode, but their most infamous moment came from their 1993 debut album, which featured a real photograph of a decapitated head on the cover. This wasn't movie makeup, this was an actual crime scene photo. The FBI actually questioned band members about how they obtained this image. Brujeria blurs the line between artistic shock value and genuine depravity in ways that still feel transgressive today. Whether they actually are cartel members or just musicians committed to the most extreme persona possible, they've created some of the most sinister music in metal history. The fact that everything's in Spanish only adds to the mystique. Like you're hearing something forbidden or something that shouldn't have crossed the border. Alright, we've now entered the top 3 picks on this list. So at number 3, we've got Swedish black metal legends Dark Funeral, who emerged in the early 90s right as Norwegian black metal was making global headlines for all the wrong reasons, such as church burnings, murders, and just general chaos. Dark Funeral took all that energy and channeled it into pure musical darkness. Their albums focus on literal depictions of hell, Satan, the apocalypse, and the end times. This isn't metaphorical or political, this is straight up worship of the underworld. So what makes Dark Funeral so effective is the communication of brutal intensity with symphonic, almost beautiful elements. Their music is agonizing and melodic simultaneously, like Standing in Hell while angels burn. Their live shows are legendary spectacles. We're talking corpse paint, blood, pentagrams, leather, spikes, and fire breathing. Dark Funeral doesn't just play concerts, they perform rituals for their crowd. The atmosphere at their shows feels genuinely unholy in a way that few bands have achieved. They are contemporaries with bands like Marduk and Gorgoroth, but Dark Funeral maintains this nocturnal, supernatural quality that sets them apart. Their music sounds like it's actually coming from another dimension, a darker, more hostile dimension where Satan reigns supreme. So if you want to experience black metal's vision of hell in its purest form, I would check out a Dark Funeral record. Alright, coming in at number 2 is one of the most controversial bands in metal history, and that is Florida's death metal legends, Deicide, whose name literally means the killing of God. Formed in 1987, Deicide has been on an anti-Christian crusade for nearly 40 years. Every album, every song, every interview, all dedicated to attacking Christianity and promoting Satanism. So there's no subtlety here. There's no metaphor, this is direct, confrontational blasphemy. Frontman Glenn Benton famously had an inverted cross branded into his forehead. Not tattooed, branded with a hot iron. At least, that's what he says. That's commitment to the aesthetic, though some former bandmates have questioned whether his beliefs are genuine or just provocative showmanship. Deicide's album titles tell you everything. Once Upon the Cross, mocking the crucifixion, To Hell with God, which is pretty self-explanatory, Serpents of the Light, which celebrates Lucifer, and they've been protested by Christian groups, blamed for crimes and suicides, and remained completely unrepentant. Musically, they're death metal legends, founding members of the Florida death metal scene alongside groups like Morbid Angel and Cannibal Corpse. Glenn Benton's vocals are demonic, guttural, and utterly inhuman sounding. After nearly 40 years, Deicide is still touring, still releasing albums, and still attacking Christianity, and still one of the top-selling death metal bands ever. They're proof that extreme controversy and commercial success can coexist. Alright, and last but not least, number 1 is Mayhem. Norwegian black metal pioneers. not just the most satanic band, possibly the most infamous band in metal history. Formed in 1984, Mayhem defined Norwegian black metal's sound and, unfortunately, its violent legacy. They were inspired by early extreme metal like Slayer and Celtic Frost, but pushed everything darker, faster, more violent, and more genuinely committed to evil. But Mayhem's notoriety isn't just about their music. Their history includes genuine tragedy and crime that casts a permanent shadow over the black metal scene. In 1991, vocalist Dead, who chose that stage name for a reason, took his own life with a shotgun. Guitarist Euronymous discovered the body, and in an act that still shocks people today, took photographs before calling the police. Those photographs ended up as a bootleg album cover, but the darkness didn't stop there. Shortly after, bassist Varg Vikernes, who played in the band Burzum and isn't just an absolute piece of crap, went on a spree of church arsons, burning historic Norwegian churches to make a statement against Christianity. Then in 1993, Vikernes, or let's just call him Varg, murdered Euronymous, stabbing him to death. This happened right before the release of their landmark album, which featured lyrics written by Dead before his suicide, and the last recordings that Euronymous ever made. Varg was convicted and served time, while Mayhem somehow survived this apocalyptic period. The band continues on today, with some original members still performing their dark, atmospheric black metal. Their recent shows have featured blood, animal parts, and theatrical violence. Mayhem earned their name through actual mayhem, deaths, arson, murder, and music that soundtracked it all. They are number one, not just for being satanic, but for representing black metal's darkest chapter, when the music and the violence became inseparable. So there you have it, the 13 most satanic metal bands of all time, from industrial satanic priests to death metal god killers. They've helped shape extreme metal's identity and create music that still shocks, offends, and captivates decades later. So what do you guys think? Are these bands genuinely evil or just masters at provoking the audience? Did I miss any bands that deserve to be on the list? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on what could have been in this list instead. If you've enjoyed this journey through metal's darkest corners, hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and ring the bell for notifications. Until next time, this has been another episode of My Kinda Weird.